Okay, so let's go ahead and go through head protection. This is going to be somewhat of a short slide, and I do have a video that goes along with it when we are talking about it. But a lot of the injuries are caused by any type of hitting their head against something. It can be falling objects. Also, to contractors who hit their head and become exposed to any type of electrical conductors. In OSHA, this is going to be under 1910-100 and in 1926-100. That's interesting. I never realized that was the same. Also, the ANSI numbers for this is going to be Z89.1 for the head protection, and then it's Z89.2 for the electrical. And so let's go ahead and watch this video, and then we will go back. I know that was quite interesting video, and the dramatic music that's behind that, but it does kind of prove a point, and it talks about the reasoning why we need head protection. And you know, obviously you don't want to put a real person's head there, so you want to show them as much as you can with regard to that without having to hurt anybody when we look at it. Trying to switch back here. Okay, so the classes of hard hats, there's going to be type 1 or type 2, and then the most common are going to be class G and class E or class C. And so it'll have that, and it kind of talks about the information. Type 1 class G provides any type of impact protection, but it's going to have real limited voltage protection, whereas class E is going to be utilized for electrical work, and it is going to have that impact protection as well as the any type of voltage that could affect it. And then type 1 or 2 class C is going to just have the impact protection when we look at it. So this is just a regular hard hat. This is the Pitt State hard hats that we have here when we go out and utilize those and wear those. Inside the hard hats, there's typically, and I know you're not going to be able to see this, but there's typically some instructions right here with regard to that, and it'll also tell you that it is ANSI Z89, and it tells you inside here that this is a type 1 class E is what it is. So it's not going to provide, if I can read that correctly, I think, but it's not going to provide electrical, or it will provide electrical. The other thing that I want to let you know is that there is this, and I think I have a, this is like a dial that's listed on there, and I think you guys can kind of see that, but it tells you when the hard hat was manufactured, and I think I have something in the handouts that kind of will talk to you about that as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll go into hearing protection, and I have a short video here for you. Let me get to that for you. And I apologize, I'm having to go in and unplug my microphone so you can hear me, and that's the reason why I have to do this, do it this way each time. So I'll go ahead and do that for you.
Prolonged, unprotected exposure to excessive noise can cause irreparable hearing damage. It is vital, therefore, that everyone in your facility take appropriate steps to protect their hearing from workplace noise. What exactly is considered excessive noise? Excessive noise has been defined by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as exposure to sound greater than 85 decibels continuously over an 8-hour period. How loud is 85 decibels? To give you a better idea, here are some samples of fairly common noises that the EPA would consider excessive. All hearing protection devices are individually rated by how well they reduce noise. This noise reduction rating, or NRR for short, is clearly visible on the label of every hearing protector sold in the United States today. These earmuffs, for example, have an NRR rating of 30, meaning they will provide 30 decibels of protection, reducing the sound of a chainsaw from 100 decibels to a much safer 70 decibels. It is also possible to combine earplugs and earmuffs for even greater noise protection. Determining the NRR rating for dual protectors is easy. Just increase the NRR rating of the higher rated protection device by between 5 and 10 points. In this example, using these disposable earplugs with an NRR rating of 33, along with these earmuffs with an NRR rating of 27, would provide you somewhere between 38 and 43 decibels of noise protection. Seton has the hearing protection equipment you need, from disposable and reusable earplugs to earmuffs, as well as earplug dispensers.
Okay, so that was real informative when we look at anything with regard to hearing protection. And what it talked about was 85 decibels at 8-hour time-weighted average, and that is it's kind of calculated in a specific way, which we're not going to go into with regard to that. And a lot of times, if the sound is louder, the time that they can actually be exposed to it, the time the employees can actually be exposed to it, is going to be a shorter period of time. So you do have to watch that fairly carefully when looking at it. So as I mentioned, you can find this in both 1910 and 1926 with regard to that, and it is in decibels is how they calculate that, and we already kind of talked about that. And this is that duration, and 85 is the cutoff for a protection plan, and so that's what most safety managers use, even though with regard to OSHA they do allow a 90 because you need a hearing protection plan if a hearing protection plan if it's 85 decibels. So everybody just kind of goes off that 85 decibels. But you can see here that if it's 92 decibels for 6 hours, you have to have hearing protection. If it's 100, the employees can only be exposed to that for 2 hours a day, and so on when we look at it. So we do have to monitor that, and we have to test that. That's one of the things that I'm actually doing at my internship this summer, is going around and doing audio metric testing with regard to that. And I'm utilizing some materials, and then they also will have a mobile van service come in. They've already had baselines, most of them, except if they've just started recently. This is their annual exam, and so we'll do some training with regard to hearing protection, and they'll go through the hearing annual testing with regard to that. And what we're looking for is a shift in their threshold shift. And essentially what it is this is like a baseline, and they typically will look in 2K, 3K, 4K is what they're test on, what we're looking at. But this is like their baseline. And then they come in and they'll do this annual testing, and they'll see if there's a shift when we look at it. It kind of goes to the reportable. Sorry, you can't see this with this camera up here. And so what they have to do is add the three different numbers of the shift together and divide that by 3. It's 11. They do have a shift of over 10, but it isn't a reportable loss when we look at it. And we'll talk about recordables at a later date. So we must, as employers, provide some type of hearing protection, and those can be a lot of different things. These are all types of hearing protection that you could have. They can be foamies a lot of times. And I'll take a couple of these out. We're pretty common. If I can get them out of here. Good Lord. Okay. What's really common are these, when you start looking at these type of hearing protection, they're just little foamies. Some of them are going to be on strings, and so you can have those on strings or non-strings. The strings are only there for employee use so that when they take them out, then they don't fall on the ground, that type of thing. Some of them are plastic, and you can kind of see here, these are going to be plastic. They're pretty much going to be twisted in. You twist those in when you do that, and some of them are kind of both. So this is a twist in. It has a hard shell on the outside of it. It's a twist in, but it's a foamy difference. And so those are some types. Then we also have some of these that we look at, and these are just kind of clip in. These are from one of my internships that I do, and so they just kind of clip in, and I shouldn't be able to hear anything outside except for my voice inside. And so sometimes, we'll wear these behind our ears, obviously with my hair out of the way, but this is something that you might wear with a hard hat. They also have hearing protection that fits on the hard hats. My hard hat doesn't have that, but you can have these types of head muffs that would fit on. You can see a picture of it here. So we do have to make sure we train the employees how to wear it. You would be amazed at how many people do not know how to utilize hearing protection properly. And so we do have to train to that and make sure that we're looking at the employees and seeing that they are putting those in properly. We also have to make sure that they're fitted properly, and we can do some testing with regard to that. Excuse me. With those, we have had employees just kind of lay the hearing protection in here and think that's working. It's not going to do anything for them. And so we want to watch them actually put that in. Typically the twist-in type are going to be the easiest for somebody to use, but different ear canals will kind of constitute what they have to use. And they do have to have annual training. Once again, as I mentioned, in my internship, we were going to do the training along with the testing, which is pretty normal when we look at it. And then with the foamies, you do have to replace those. It's kind of an every use time, or when they get dirty or sweaty or something like that. And then the twisting kind, you want to make sure you're utilizing those and cleaning those, and make sure you put those in there dry versus any type of wet, because you can get ear infections and such like that. So the three different types that we're kind of looking at are the ear muffs, and those are going to have your lowest, typically your lowest dBA when we look at it. So the decibels are going to be lower on this. Your earplugs, the foamies, are probably going to be your best. And then I showed you some of the canal caps that were there. We do have to have a hearing conservation program. Once again, it's that 85 decibels at 8 hours time weighted average that kind of is requiring that, and that's why majority of the people just say 85 instead of the 90 that's required by OSHA. And then we also have to monitor with regard to that, and then do that baseline and that annual testing as we look at it. And you can kind of see some information here with regard to any type of program requirements.